Hi, this is Jack Stanley, and I wanted to talk about how did God get on our money? Now, I have to tell you, our founding fathers at the Constitutional Convention wanted to distance themselves as far as possible with the word God. In fact, they use creator. Um, they wanted to have a very strong and distant separation between church and state because they felt that it could be dangerous. They felt it could be very dangerous indeed, because if you have a church within a state, it could act as crazy as some of the religions within that church may be. So they kept everyone separate. And this was fine. I mean, you got to remember, most of our founders were deists. You got to remember Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, to a degree John Adams, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, all deists. They all were politicians, though, and they all used a degree of religion to reach the common man, because they knew they had to do that because religion attracted the common man. They were not trying to reach intellectuals. Intellectuals were not following religion. Intellectuals more or less deists. And God stayed out of our coinage for many, many years. Whichever God you wish to use, because there's several. Now, let's move the clock of time along. 1800, no God. 1820, no God. 1840, no God. 1860, no God. But during the administration of Abraham Lincoln, his Secretary of the Treasury, Salmon Chase, who was a devout and very, very religious man, pushed to have the motto, "In God We Trust," put onto coinage. And the first coin so deemed acceptable for this new statement was this coin. See if I can show it to you. It's not easy. It's a coin you don't usually see. It's a 2-cent coin. Is that seeable? I think it is a little bit. It's a 2-cent coin. 2 cents. There it is. United States of America. Now on the other side, and I doubt this will be readable because the coin isn't very big, is the motto. In God we trust, on the top of that kind of squirrely thing above the shield. That was the first coin to have that motto. And so God was on the coinage. It took several generations. It was long after the generations of the founders. They would have dropped dead to have something like that on a coin, because they did not want to have anything like that. And of course, our coinage all had it. Theodore Roosevelt tried to get it removed. He felt there was no place on a coin to have "In God We Trust." Unfortunately, he was unable to remove it. An interesting thing is this, that "In God We Trust" is on every coin that we make today. But until the 1950s, it wasn't on our bills. In fact, it wasn't until the 1950s that we so deemed that we trusted God on paper money. God was okay with coinage, but he wasn't quite too good with paper money. And in the 1950s, "In God We Trust" was put on paper money, which would have also made our founders shudder. First off, they weren't big supporters of paper money. They were more for specie, like copper, silver, and gold. And of course now, God we trust is on everything, even though our coinage is worth next to nothing, and our bills are not worth that much. But we still trust in God. And in God we trust is on every coin. I think it's time to take it off. I think it would be a lot nicer. I think it would be more in the intent of the founders of this nation, who were not a little crazy about religion. They thought it was a little frightening. But the thing is that in God we trust is now part of our coinage, no matter what we do. In fact, there are people that go crazy if in God we trust is not on a coin. Why? Do we trust him? I don't think so. He's just on the coin. It's just a motto. And I guess it makes some people feel better. But when it comes to the founders, they would have taken this coin and tossed it in the rubbish, because the last thing they would ever want is a deity mentioned on a coin. Because you've got to understand that there is a wide gulf of separation between church and state. And in 1864, with the 2-cent coin, we put a hole in the wall and allowed church and state to merge a little bit. I think we're getting smarter now, and we're getting away from some of that. But the thing is, it's kind of interesting to note, some people think that actually, when this country was founded, that they wanted something like that on their coinage. Not at all. You need to know this. It's very important. And it is kind of laughable that for about 90 years, we didn't trust God on paper money.